So is Esther Hicks actually speaking for entities calling themselves Abraham? That's the question. But does it really matter? Hey guys, it's John here. As I've said in the past, I've done several videos on individuals' thoughts, people's asking, and I'm getting overwhelmingly a ton of people asking about Esther Hicks and Abraham. And though I will keep these videos on the channel few and far between about certain people or other people in the spiritual communities, I figure this one is probably one of the biggest because it is one of the most popular. If people really are interested in what I have to say about it, I'll be glad to share. First of all, I think before you can dive into that, you need to talk about channeling itself. You know, channeling is basically from the term of a seafaring. You've got a body of water and a smaller body of water, and then there's a canal or a channel between the two, and you're bringing information down from one to the other. So or cargo down from one to the other in the seafaring terms. But in the metaphysical terms, you're channeling the information from that larger intelligence or that larger consciousness. I've had a very interesting experience with this, and it's one of the ones that, because of my own personal experience, when I watch Abraham Hicks, and I've watched a lot of Abraham Hicks, I'm fascinated by Abraham Hicks. One of the books that I thoroughly enjoyed of hers was Ask and It Is Given. I just thoroughly enjoyed that book. There's different terminologies and there's just different perspectives in it that don't feel right to me, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just that's her perspective and that's where it's coming from. But I had an experience many years ago where I was doing a private session with someone in person, and I suddenly saw what looked like a light or a brightness beside her. And then I began speaking with a different accent and different information was coming through. And the whole time it was happening, I was feeling this pure bliss, this pure, unconditional, and that's not even an appropriate word for it. The whole time it was going through, I was feeling that pure love. When the information stopped and that different personality went away, I fell into fear and anxiety, and I wept and I cried because the drop from that pure bliss state back into the fear state was huge. Having a highly inquisitive mind, I immediately started gathering people together and opening up to have it happen again. And it did. It happened again for months. For the first few months, the entity had its own name. It would come in, it would speak, and about the third month, it stopped referring to me, John Davis, in third person. Because it used to say, and John would say, and John did this, right? And when it stopped speaking about me in third person, it began using the term John I. And one of the ladies that was in the room and was very instrumental in helping me figure out what all this was, asked the question, why are you saying John I? Why are you saying John I? And it was explained that we're all in this oneness of God, and that my personal self-doubt and self-worth of being someone who could bring something straight from source into the world, basically my Catholicism, made me feel like I was unworthy of the information. So in the oneness of God, there is individual sparks of consciousness. There is this individuality within the oneness of God, but it's still part of the oneness of God. And so when I didn't feel worthy of my oneness with God, I started having this other entity as a middleman, as it were. And what was happening was I was coming to know my worth and my value, and coming to know that God is with me all the time, and that I have the ability to have that communication with God. And what was happening is that as I became more comfortable with it, the less I needed the personality. The personality was fading away. As time went on, eventually the personality was completely gone. It was just me speaking. But the other thing that was so interesting was the struggle that I had in that process, when that pure love would go away and I drop into the fears, all that went away too. And so it just became me opening up the source, and whatever came through, came through. One of the things I find so fascinating about Esther Hicks is if you watch her earliest videos, she has an accent, she has a different personality, and over the course of time, it has just become a very confident Esther speaking. I personally think she's gone through the same kind of process. She's come to the place of realizing she doesn't need the middleman. And I don't know, I don't know what her thoughts are. I'm not remotely saying that is her truth. But when I look at it compared to my own truth, I'm fascinated by the fact that her early videos have her with the accent and the physicality, and her later ones have her just talking on stage. And to me, that's becoming comfortable in her own awareness of her divinity, which I love, which I think is fantastic. Now, in the teachings of Abraham Hicks, we speak a lot of the same stuff. We use very different terminologies, and the reason I say that is because I think that, for me personally, not bashing Esther in any way, shape, or form, for me personally, her terminology is too complex. The vortex and all the stuff. I think it literally is simply the oneness of God, and creation is belief. And when the idea of feeling that, and that conversation with God being the feeling, and our belief, where there's a feeling behind belief. So for me, it's all simpler, but that's in my regression. That's what it said. It's just so simple, we have a hard time comprehending how simple it is. So in reality, Esther Hicks may have been a great stepping stone for a lot of people coming to their own divinity. And my only, if I even have a concern, would be that they get stuck on the terminology, the methods, the modalities, the techniques, and forget the fact that they're divine. Everybody is divine. Everybody has the same abilities, but it's a matter of us all choosing to believe it. What we believe, we can achieve. We can do anything. And when I look at Esther Hicks's work, I'm amazed at all she's been able to accomplish, and I'm amazed at how many people have come into their own spirituality through Esther Hicks. I think that is just a beautiful testament to the commitment to the works that she has done. After a bit of time watching videos of her and reading books where I could not continue because it just didn't jive with me anymore. But that is the evolution of a spiritual path. You find someone who puts you somewhere, and then you grow from that. When I look at Esther's work, I think she was a great stepping stone. She is a great stepping stone for people stepping into spirituality. For me personally, it comes back to the simplicity. The simplicity of being still in the oneness of God, right? And when I look at her work, I'm very impressed. I like the work that she's done. I'm really happy to see her not having the accent and the physicality any longer, because I think that's really Esther herself coming to grips with it and not having to need that separation from self. So I think that's beautiful. So all in all, I guess my take on Esther Hicks is that she really is tapping into something, and it's coming through her own personal filter and her own personal wording and her own personal associations. I think she's bringing fine information, good information. It's just that perspective, and some people really jive on that perspective, and they really hits home for them, and it works for them. For me, it no longer does. In the beginning, it was like, that's really cool, and I'd watch everything, but I never really got into the vortex thing, and I never really got into several other things she said. But I know many other people who've done really cool things with those, because they can understand that. So my take on her, I think she's tapping into real stuff. I think she's absolutely bringing stuff through, and I think she's really raising her own consciousness to come to her oneness of God and her divinity within. So that's my take on Esther Hicks, and I hope that it answers the questions that I've been getting, because I've been getting a lot of them on Esther Hicks. So that's my thought. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.